Let's see what was the production in 1950, post-independence. 47 we got independence. 1950 actually the planning started, the planning commission started. We had population about 361 million that time. Our food grain production is about 51 million tons, metric tons. And import, we had to import about 5 million metric tons that time. There was no buffer stock. So we had about total 55.6 million tons that we had. From there, if you look at the right hand side, for about 20 years, our population has gone up to 548, almost 50% more. Food production from 50 million metric ton is gone to 108 million tons, almost double. Imports came down from 10.4 to 7.5. We had no buffer stock at that time. Buffer stock means to carry over or excess that we can keep it in a warehouse. But that was the same time, around 65, we had this green revolution started actually in 1966-68. The short, dwarf, fertilizer responsive, water responsive rice varieties from ERI, International Rice Research Philippines, started coming. Same time the wheat started coming from CIMET. These new varieties brought for nationwide testing. They were brought for testing here, and fertilizer responsive high-yielding varieties were needed to meet the challenge. That was the time India was regarded as a begging basket. I think that was the time India imported millions of tons of wheat, which was given practically free by US government under the Public Law 480. It is famously known as PL 480 wheat. Shiploads came, and it was the worst wheat which Americans won't use. It was shipped to India, and it also brought a big huge problem of wheat called Parthenium. I don't know if you have Parthenium in your country or not, but I'm sure Bangladesh has Parthenium. Other countries Parthenium is there. It's an obnoxious wheat which is spread all over India, which came with the wheat import because there was no quarantine. Wheat came in thousands of tons in a ship. There is no quarantine as happens with the ship from there. So the food also has brought same thing again. You see the production level between 2003 and 2008 is the average area. We had about, under rice we had about 42.2 million hectares, wheat about 27.1, oilseeds about 26.4, production was 90 million tons, 72 million tons, coarse cereals about 36 million tons. Productivity range between 2099 kg per hectare, 2685 kg per hectare, coarse cereals 129 kg per hectare. Now, the food basket, as we call them, food security, comprises of rice, wheat, and coarse cereals and pulses. Pulses are not included in the food basket. This is what constitutes your food. Now, coarse cereals, which are mostly sorghum and millet, I don't know. Any one of you have seen sorghum and millet? Not in your country. Hardly sorghum millet grows in countries where there is a lot of rainfall. It is all rice, rice and rice. But in India, where the rainfall is between 300 millimeters to 700 millimeters, is all sorghum and millet. You can't grow rice unless you got irrigation. Yeah. And this was the staple food for millions of people, farmers. Sorghum millet. Now it is also, the finger millet has also come there. Their productivity remained very, very low. Pulses remain also very low over the years. Oilseeds also remain very low. So what has happened? We had about 500 kg production that time to 2000, almost 4 times. Food we had about 30 million tons. We had fruit about 63 million tons. We had vegetables about 125 million tons, metric tons. Milk about 100 million liter. And from 5 eggs, the average now we have about 42 eggs per head available. But still we are nowhere near to say Western cultures where egg consumption may be more than 100 that you have. From 1960 when the research actually picked up, we have released almost more than 3,000 varieties of different crops of India. There are 900 varieties of rice being released in India, high-yielding varieties and hybrids, and about 700 horticulture crops also. But don't forget, in India, we take vegetable crops as horticulture crops. It doesn't come under agriculture crop, it comes under horticulture crop. So vegetables will be under the Ministry of Horticulture, not under the Ministry of Agriculture. Though horticulture is part of the Ministry of Agriculture. trend in food production, the green revolution actually followed by white revolution. We had the milk, now we are practically self-sufficient, which is called the white revolution. Then now we are going towards the blue revolution, which is fish. We have got a huge coastline plus inland waterways. That's one also there. And now the question, the term being used is from how can you go from the grey to green revolution. In fact, this book by Dr. Garg is Greening the Grey, is an excellent book if you can get it, which says about how we can now transform the dryland agriculture into the more productive way. We have productivity gains are anything between 50 metric tons to 200 metric tons now. 2013-14 has been regarded as the bumper or the record yield of about 259 million tons in India. But 2014-15 has not come because that was the drought year. Vegetable we have increased about 2.1 times, fish about 5 times, milk about 1.8 times, egg about 4.8 times increase. So these are impressive figures, no doubt. You can see from 2000 to 2012, the food production has gone from 196 million tons to about 250 million tons in 2012-13. That was also, before that, 2011 was a bumper year again there. So Nehruvian area, it's called Nehruvian area because Nehru, when he became Prime Minister, he had a grand vision of more of a Soviet model that should be state-run heavy industries, fertilizer factories, large dams on rivers, farming as a cooperative model, which the Russians use as communes in Russia, which has really failed in India. It didn't run. But that model of totally state-controlled development model of heavy industries and heavy dam was his vision that happened. That actually worked to have the basic infrastructure developed in that area, which is between 1950 to about 1970. Then decentralized component is coming. The first fertilizer factory that came was in Bihar. It's called Sindri Fertilizer Factory. One of the first dam that came is on Sutlej, I think, in Punjab, called Bhakra Dam, which irrigates huge amount of area in India. So these are, we call it temples of research in India, like Dr. Bhargav also mentioned. The era of crisis in Indian food production, heavy imports of wheat and rice, no buffer stock actually changed. Now, begging bowl syndrome, which Americans especially say, India is gone. India is only going to be begging now, so we'll have to be ready. So that syndrome changed because of the Green Revolution in 65, 66, 67. PL480 scheme I have already mentioned, but also has brought the wheat problem there. These two gentlemen are regarded as the father of the Green Revolution. I don't know how many can recognize. The right-hand man is an American, Norman Borlaug, who brought the wheat breeder from Cement. And Dr. Swaminathan, who was the Secretary General of ICA at that time, is regarded as father of the Green Revolution in India. That was the time the high-yielding varieties came. And at the same time, we had these agriculture universities were established in India, and the American model. The scientists quickly changed the consumer acceptance of these varieties which came. I remember myself that we had Taichung Native 1 and Tainan, two varieties which came from Taiwan, which are very high yielding, but they were sticky rice, which Thailand people, you people will be because you put in the chopsticks. And sticky rice is not accepted in India at all, nobody would touch it there. So Taichung Native 1 really didn't click because of the consumers' acceptance was not there. So this was changed by scientists to the palate of the consumers, that means Indian population, changed to more long-grain rices. Now we have got the scented rice with the high-yielding rice called basmati rice and Dehradun rice and all that, which has come. So this is the contribution of the scientists you can't ignore. It has changed the scenario in India totally after the Green Revolution. The advent of Green Revolution, we had dwarf wheat and rice from Cement and Nird. They were highly fertilizer responsive, high yielding, but water guzzler varieties also. Any wheat variety that came from Cement would require 100 kg of nitrogen, 60 kg of phosphorus, or 50 kg of potassium and all that. Indian Agriculture University is quick to release varieties of Indian consumer acceptance. Also, at the same time, 1971, ICSAT was actually the first internal institute came at the birth of CGIAR. Now, what is CGIAR? It's called Consultative Group on International Agriculture Research, which came in 1971. Sponsors were World Bank, FAO, and UNDP. They were the sponsors of the three. and about 29 nations came together, donated fund, pure donation fund, to run about 15 institutes in the world. CIMIT and ED were not funded by CG before 71. They were funded by Ford Foundation and Rockefeller Foundation. But after CG came, all were brought under one umbrella, and ICISAT was the first institute to work on dryland agriculture because people thought dryland has to come, and the crops were only 5 that were checked in that time. So CG actually also brought a lot of changes in international agriculture all over the world. Now India has only one institute, ICISAT. Philippines has I think 2, ED and the fish one is in Philippines. Africa has about 4 there. Mexico has CIMIT there, and some of the institutes are spread out. And most of the institutes are crop based. ICISAT works on 5 crops, CIMIT works on 3 crops, barley, wheat and rye. ED only on rice. CIRT works on tropical legumes. SIP, which is Potato Institute in Peru, works on potato. And IITA in Nigeria works on avena, legumes and cereals. Yeah. So they are all crop-based institute for this thing. We had comfortable buffer stock of close to 80 million ton, 80 million metric ton now. India needs to stave off bad years. Why? Because you have problem of drought, you have problem of flood, and it has happened in 2002. In front of my eyes, I've seen 2002 we have the worst drought in India, but people didn't feel it because we had 100 million metric ton that time in the storehouses, which can take off the thing because production was down by at least 30-40 million tons. Though it is a huge inventory, huge cost, 80 million metric ton to keep it in warehouses. You can think of how many warehouses we need. It's a warehouse problem and huge wastage. Almost 25% of that food is wasted every year by rotting, by water seepage and all that. So that's a huge national shame because we are not able to save the precise food, and it has also happened sometimes the prices come down and gone up. The farmers or poor people not able to eat, but still the food was not supplied to them. These are policy distortions that policy changes that comes in a time to time. Fallout of Green Revolution is policy distortion, because the research money all went to cereals. It was wheat, rice, all the money research, not even for the coarse-based cereals. Vegetables, oilseed, pulses were all neglected. As a result, we now have a nutrition problem. We have plenty of carbohydrate, but we don't have enough vitamins, we don't have enough proteins, we don't have enough minerals. This is because food security was the prime requirement that time. This has a reason. That time it was food security. We also have problem of plenty, so lack of warehousing. Minor millets, which are climate resilient, we are also neglected very much. Rice and wheat are not climate resilient. You need now climate resilient crops, which are the millets mainly. Dryland farming remained where it is. Though after so much of research, but the investment on research and development was not on dryland farming. So some of the farmers remain where they are. Emphasis on irrigated high input farming. You give water, give fertilizer, you get a high variety, it will give you 4 tons. Now you put the same model on a dryland agriculture, it doesn't work. Where is the water? For the fertilizer to be effective, also you need water. It has to be dissolved in water, isn't it? So that way, that model failed in 60% of the land here in India, and that's why you have this problem of sustainability is coming. Yeah. Because that model is no more sustainable. We have, of course, green revolution, white revolution, rural revolution, horticulture crops are includes, vegetables are there, and from food security we have now nutrition security. From grey to green revolution is the main thing that we need to address now. Other problems which was associated with this model of green revolution was uncontrolled irrigation, overuse, which brought salinity. Groundwater depletion is very, very high in the states of Punjab, Haryana, Andhra Pradesh and many other states. There are policy distortions. Free electricity for vote bank. The case of Punjab and Haryana has brought misuse of water like hell. Monocropping became the order of the day. We have forgotten to mix the crops and have a food security there, and distortion cropping systems. So let me give examples of Punjab and Haryana what has happened, because this is being discussed now in national fora. Punjab and Haryana farmers are very advanced. They were actually feeding India with their wheat, say from 1670. They found out if they can grow rice in the rainy season, they can earn a lot of money. Because rice they don't eat. Punjabi farmers, they eat only wheat, that's chapati. So they went cultivation of rice, they depleted the water table, and that brought salinity, alkalinity very high. And that paddy which is harvested, the straw remained on the soil. That straw is not eaten by the bullocks, the buffaloes, that because Punjab has more buffaloes than cows. So what they do? They simply burn it. It has very, very high silica content also. If you go to November in Delhi, even in Delhi, you will find there is a which is called smog. Smoke plus fog, which is very common. And there is an article from Terry that why the smog has come. Smog has come because of burning of straw. Punjab, Haryana, it becomes a smoke, mixes with the fog, and Delhi, Haryana is horrible absolutely. It was high pollution. It has brought what? Why it has been done? Because there is a free electricity in Punjab by government, successive government for the last 40 years, and no government can change it because they will not get bored. So it is linked with politics, linked with policies, linked with facilities that is misused, which has brought a huge problem now in Punjab and Haryana for rice. This is a lesson that should be learned, that where you should not grow rice, you are growing rice. Where you should not grow cotton, you are growing cotton. Why? Because the farmer gets cash. And all these rice that is grown goes for export. These are all long grain rice that you buy. I buy it here 140 rupees a kilo. The normal rice is only 40 rupees a kilo. They all goes for export to Middle East and whatnot, in America and all that. So farmers are rich there. But it has brought a huge problem of salinity. Water which was 30 feet down, say 1960, has gone to 400 feet now. And this is true in Andhra Pradesh also, the state that we are sitting in. Monocropping has become the order of the day. It's only monocropping, only either rice. In West Bengal, which is my state, it is rice, 3 crops of rice is cultivated. So the soil is totally under water throughout the year. It finishes the soil totally. Degradation happens with that one. And we have forgotten to include other crops there also. Distortion came on cropping systems, which is very, very large, which is came. This is input intensive agriculture, lure of cash crops which are unsustainable. Case of cotton in India is a very, very large one. Now, the suicides which are happening now is a large scale cotton cultivation in this state, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, where water has been scarce. And cotton is a long duration crop. It is about 5 months to 6 months crop. So then if you don't have water, it dries. I see myself, the crop is only this much height, hardly any cotton into that. Farmer is trying to put a borewell here, borewell there, spending 1 lakh rupees, 1 to 2 lakh rupees, going to more debt. Until he doesn't get any money, he hangs himself from the city. That's what is happening. It's a huge social problem is happening because of simply stupid cropping system that has been followed. One farmer in Andhra Pradesh, he analyzed this thing. He quickly switched to, have you seen this flower called marigold? I think it must be in the garden here, the bright orange color flowers. Marigold is a very popular flower here for worshipping God and all that. He went to marigold instead of cotton, and he went laughing to the bank every week because he was selling 5,000 rupees a kilo, and he was harvesting almost two pickings every week, and he has profited almost 2 lakh rupees in the whole season. So he was clever, but not everybody is clever. They went on growing cotton, which has happened. Market also dictated cropping systems, unsuitable for environment, cotton after cotton. Even rice became a cash crop, as we say. And model of high input agriculture, basically, which I put in red, which has become unsustainable in the long run. This is creating